What's up, everyone? CC Report here, and we have finally made it. It is less than 72 hours until the regular season tips off for the Indiana Fever against the Dallas Wings at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and we have a final roster from the Indiana Fever. The 12 women who will comprise the 2026 edition of the team have been selected, and I just want to take some time to do a team preview, what I'm anticipating from the season for the Indiana Fever. We're going to talk a little bit about what I view the ceiling of this team to be, what I view the floor of this team to be, what are my expectations for the team offensively, defensively. Then we're going to go through the roster individually, and I'm going to give you my individual thoughts on each and every member of the 2026 Indiana Fever. So let's get started and talk a little bit about what I view this team's ceiling to be. It's very simple. This team can win the title. Period. End of story. And I say that knowing full well about the roster additions to the Las Vegas Aces. They are the defending champions already, and they brought basically everybody back from that championship team and added Kennedy Carter, who is one of the more prolific scorers in the entire world as far as the shooting guard position goes. I also know about the New York Liberty, the fact that they are bringing basically everybody back from their 2024 championship team, and they are calling in basically every favor and every contract that they have stashed over in Europe for the past 7 or 8 years. They have size, they have enormous strength in that department. They have a lot of shooting ability as well. They've brought in Satu Sabali as well. All of that's true. The Atlanta Dream have brought everybody back from the team that made the playoffs and have added Angel Reese, who perhaps is the most prolific rebounder in the history of the WNBA. So we've got a lot of titans out there in terms of teams that can compete for the championship. But the Fever can go toe-to-toe with every single one of them. They lack the size that some of these teams have. They lack the size of the Dream. They lack the size of the Liberty. They lack the size of the Aces, but what they lack in size, they make up for in speed. This team is built to compete with anybody, and the way that they will do so is run teams out of the gym. Every single person that is on this team is athletic. Every single person that is on this team likes to play in the same style, that is in transition and with a very fast tempo. And it's very obvious that this team has been constructed with one idea and goal in mind, and that is to run the opposing team out of the gym. We already saw some of this on display in the preseason against the New York Liberty, even though it was very obvious that the Fever were overmatched in terms of the size of the Liberty. The Fever were able to simply run around them and run past them, especially Caitlin Clark, especially Kelsey Mitchell. We saw both of those two outclassing their opponents on multiple occasions. The Liberty were able to counter, of course, with their size, with Jonquel Jones, with Brianna Stewart, with Hanju. But at the same time, even in preseason, you saw that it was going to be a matchup of titans and a matchup of strength against strength, a yin against yang. And frankly, my opinion is that you're never going to out-liberty the Liberty in terms of you're not going to be able to compete with their size because they have such a monopoly on it. Same deal goes for Atlanta. Same deal goes for Vegas. And so instead of trying to compete with these team sizes, you've got to come up with a strength of your own that can counter these team sizes. And this team, it has elected to zag when everybody else has zigged, and they have built their team around speed. If all goes according to plan, and assuming that there is no injuries, this team can compete for and win a championship. As far as the floor is concerned, we pretty much saw the floor scenario last season because a lot of the people that are a part of the 2026 Indiana Fever were also a part of the 2025 Indiana Fever. But we all know that as soon as Caitlin Clark went down with injury, when Sophie Cunningham went down with injury, with Ari McDonald went down with injury, etc., we saw the team kind of reach its floor, but that floor still brought them to within an overtime period of the WNBA finals because there is so much skill on the Fever and because the Fever are so deep and so well connected, that is going to pay dividends down the road. That is going to pay dividends in the playoffs, because at some point, even though we've reached the end of our bench, hopefully it doesn't come to this, but if we are forced to go to the end of our bench, stylistically, we don't have to change a whole lot in terms of how we operate. All of the people, even at the end of the bench, are athletic. They're able to go fast. They're just not as skilled as the starting lineup is. And so we're still going to play the same style. And as far as the floor is concerned, it is an extremely high floor for the Indiana Fever. I'd say that the worst case scenario for our team still has us in the playoffs, still has us in top 4 seed, and still has us at least in the semifinals, if not still contending for a spot in the WNBA finals. So that's as far as the ceiling and the floor is concerned. I think that the Fever are going to do exceptionally well. As far as what I am expecting on offense, I've already talked a lot about the stylistic way in which that they are going to play. I've talked about the roster construction and how everybody is constructed for speed. Everybody is constructed to play fast. But the other thing that I want to talk about is how every single player that is on the Fever is specifically chosen to maximize the strength of their greatest player, and that is Caitlin Clark. We know that Caitlin likes to play fast. We know that Caitlin stretches the floor and has gravity like no other player in the WNBA. We've seen it on display in preseason again and again, and we're going to continue to see teams guarding Caitlin 94 feet, bending their defensive discipline in ways to make sure that Caitlin remains covered, even if it leaves somebody else on the team open. And so if you have a player like that in Caitlin Clark, your teammates are going to want to, one, be able to convert at the rim at a high rate, because Caitlin is going to find the open cutting teammate for easy conversions at the rim. Secondly, you're going to want to make sure that you have teammates that are good at catch and shoot, so that Caitlin can find those teammates on the perimeter that are either left open or left undercovered. And so when you look at the team, all of the forwards, their strengths are to convert baskets at the rim, to convert the easy layups, to convert those passes that Caitlin is going to find them on when the opposing team's defensive discipline goes away. Monique Billings and Myisha Hines-Allen were both near the top of the league in terms of conversion rate as cutting forwards. And so that is one specific reason why Amber Cox, the general manager, went out and picked both of them up. Sophie Cunningham, excellent catch and release shooter. Lexie Hull, good catch and release shooter. To say nothing of Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, obviously superstar caliber players that are great at anything that we need them to do. So every single player that is on the roster from the top to the bottom, it has some sort of ability to complement Caitlin Clark's strengths and to take advantage of her superpower, which is her insane court vision and her ability to stretch the floor, and the fact that she is a danger no matter where she is on the court. That is an element that previous Fever teams have lacked, especially in 2024. We didn't necessarily have personnel that were able to convert at the rim very often, or that were able to handle Caitlin's passing ability. That problem is pretty much solved. I'm not saying that they're going to convert every Caitlin pass. I'm not saying that they're going to be able to catch every Caitlin pass, because some of the new people are still working at getting used to Caitlin. But once that synergy starts to develop, and it already has developed in the case of Sophie Cunningham, in the case of Aaliyah Boston, especially in the case of Kelsey Mitchell, you're going to see some very advanced stuff in terms of the offense that is run. We're seeing this in preseason. We saw against Nigeria, we see Caitlin setting screens for Aaliyah Boston, which is just an absolutely insane nightmare in terms of coverage. There is no solution to defending that well if you are the opposing team, because both Aaliyah and Caitlin are such high IQ players that it is impossible. Even if you play it perfectly, it's such a mismatch that they're going to be able to either convert at the rim themselves or make the correct outlet pass to the open player. So there's just a lot of offensive creativity that we'll see there. And the more chemistry that develops, and already we're at an extremely high level as far as that's concerned, the more creative the offense is going to be able to be with Stephanie White and with the rest of the coaching staff, with Austin Kelly, etc. So Offensively, my expectations are extremely high for this Fever team. I think that we are going to smash records. I think that this is going to be the best offense that the WNBA has ever seen. And the reason I think that is because not only is it constructed to take advantage of Caitlin Clark's specific strengths, and everybody on the roster is able to do that, but also because many of the people on the roster are such high basketball IQ and have such high skill levels at their particular assigned skills that it's a roster that is built to do one thing, and that is to smash scoring records. So I think offensively, my expectations are extremely high. Defensively, my expectations are pretty high as well. We've added some extremely capable defenders in Raven Johnson, perhaps the most capable defensive player that has come through the draft in many years at the guard position. We already have Lexie Hull, who is an extremely good defender on the wing, and who up until Raven Johnson came onto the team was our best defender out on the wing. And then finally, we have Aaliyah Boston, who is an all WNBA caliber defender and rebounder. So defensively, my expectation is pretty high. We've also raised the standards for Kelsey Mitchell as a defender, for Caitlin Clark as a defender. Both of those players traditionally have not been known as great defenders, but we saw Kelsey raise her defensive game last season under Coach Stephanie White. And unfortunately, Caitlin, of course, was hurt for the majority of the year. And so we didn't really get a chance to get a good sample size of that. But moving to this year, we're going to hopefully see that same sort of leap from Caitlin as well. And so defensively, I think that the standard is going to be extremely high. Is it going to break defensive records as well? No, I'm not expecting that, but I'm expecting a top 5 caliber defense as well. And when you pair that with the offense, that is why you see the expectations so high for the Indiana Fever in terms of results. Let's take a look at each individual member of the roster and chat just a few thoughts about each one of them. And it starts, any conversation with the Indiana Fever starts and ends with their engine. That engine is Caitlin Clark. I've made my feelings about Caitlin pretty well known at this point in time. This channel is called the CC Report. I believe that Caitlin is the best and most transformative player in WNBA history. I don't think it's that close. And the thing that makes Caitlin so transformative, there are some people out there that are better shooters or better scorers than Caitlin. There are very few people that can claim to match Caitlin's ability in terms of passing, but the fact that she melds both of those things together is the reason that she is always going to be the number one generational transformative player that she is. And so when we're evaluating Caitlin Clark, you're expecting her to set the assist record every season. You're expecting her to be in top 10 in terms of scoring, if not top 5. And when you put those two things together, you can expect nothing less than an MVP caliber season from Caitlin Clark. Will she win the MVP? I think that she will, if only because she is still on the ascent. There is no telling how many steps that she's taken because we didn't get a good sample size or a healthy sample size in her 2025 season. Now, hopefully we will have a big sample size and we'll be able to see the steps that she has taken, not only in this offseason, but also in the offseason previous. So my expectations for Caitlin are extremely high. As far as her front court partner, Aaliyah Boston, my expectations here are also extremely high. She's already set the bar super high with her All-WNBA second team performance last year and with her All-WNBA defensive performance last year, or defensive caliber performance, I should say, last year. Additionally, we know that she spent the offseason working on her three-point shot. And if she can add that to her game and we can have Caitlin Clark on the floor at the same time, that is going to stretch defenses even further and open up a myriad of different possibilities, not only for Aaliyah, but also for Caitlin and for the rest of her team as well. So I expect her to perform highly in that area. She also has molded herself into the perfect front court mate for Caitlin Clark. This has been a multi-year operation. She started out her rookie season as a traditional back to the basket post, and she won Rookie of the Year doing that stylistically. But when Caitlin came to town, she got to the gym and molded herself into no less than the most athletic big that exists in the WNBA right now. She is capable of running up and down the floor with Caitlin Clark. There are very few centers that can keep up with Aaliyah Boston as far as athletics is concerned, and so we're going to see her outmatch her opponents in that area as well. To say nothing of the fact that she has been the only big that has given A'ja Wilson problems and that has stopped the MVP caliber A'ja Wilson again and again. We saw her battle A'ja Wilson to a draw in last year's playoffs. My expectation is that Aaliyah, who is also on the ascent and who is nowhere near her apex, will at some point overtake A'ja Wilson, possibly as soon as this year. A'ja Wilson already at her apex. She has nowhere to go but down. So that's my expectation for Aaliyah Boston. As far as the Big Three's last remaining member, Kelsey Mitchell, this may be her last year with the team. It may not be. I think that they probably have some long-term solutions planned out by now. But regardless of what their future plans are like, I expect Kelsey Mitchell to play like a house on fire this year. All of the things that we've talked about Caitlin stretching the floor, about Aaliyah stretching the floor, are going to create semi-truck sized lanes wide open for Kelsey Mitchell to get through. There is no player in the WNBA that is faster than Kelsey Mitchell. There is no player in the WNBA that has a quicker first step than Kelsey Mitchell. There is no player in the WNBA that is as shifty as Kelsey Mitchell. She is what Caitlin describes as the perfect backcourt partner for Caitlin and for her particular strengths, and it is easy to see why. Caitlin needs to have somebody that is reliable and that is dependable and that is fast and that is connected with Caitlin psychically to be able to convert her crazy passes. And Kelsey is the perfect person to do that. They've spent the past 3 years working on their connection, and it is as strong, if not stronger than ever. So I expect Kelsey Mitchell to have a great year. Last year, she was all WNBA first team. I expect her to have a similar year this year, if not an even better statistical year than she had last year. Do I expect her to be all WNBA first team again? I don't know. I expect her to be in contention for it. I think that it's going to be difficult to put all three of the Fever's big three on the all WNBA first team, but there's nothing saying that that's not a possibility. Let's talk about the Fever's biggest addition. That would be Monique Billings. Monique Billings, traditionally not a full-time starter in her career at the 4 position. She is a natural 4, but her strengths are exactly the strengths of somebody that would be a teammate for Caitlin Clark. It is as if she was built in a lab to be complemented by Caitlin Clark's strengths. She is an incredibly good finisher at the rim, converting at an 81% conversion rate last year with the Golden State Valkyries. She is a very good defender with an overall defensive rating of 99 overall. This outpaces Aaliyah Boston's defensive rating of 101. It is an equivalent defensive rating to people like Brianna Jones. It is just behind Alana Smith, and it is just behind Napheesa Collier's defensive ratings of 96 and behind A'ja Wilson's defensive rating of 95. So she's an excellent defender, excellent rim converter. She is extremely athletic. She can run up and down the floor. Exactly what we're looking for in Caitlin, and the screens that she sets. She is the best screener in the entire WNBA as far as what Caitlin is looking for, what Caitlin's needs are. And so Monique Billings, again, like I said, it is as if she was built in a lab to complement Caitlin Clark's strengths. And so, assuming good health for everybody on the team, you're going to see Monique Billings play a lot, and you're going to see her play really well. We know that she's dealing with a little bit of an ankle issue that she suffered against Nigeria right now. It seems like that's going to be minor and that she's going to be ready for the start of the season. But regardless, as soon as they get on the floor, you're already starting even in preseason to see some elite chemistry between Mo and between Caitlin. that is only going to grow as they continue to get used to each other, as they continue to understand each other's tendencies, and as they continue to develop trust and rapport. And by, I think, a month into the season, you're going to be seeing some truly amazing things. The screens that Mo sets alone are going to unlock hundreds of points from Caitlin that she wasn't otherwise going to be able to achieve because she didn't have that screening element last year. Let's talk a little bit about Sophie Cunningham, who returns on a 1-year deal. There's some question as to whether she may be able to return next year or not. I'm not concerned about that right now. What I am concerned with is what she is going to do on the court. And last season, when she was healthy, she was setting career highs in 3-point percentage conversion rate. She was setting career highs in shooting. She was setting career highs in rebounding, basically having the best year of her entire career. And there is no reason to believe that those numbers cannot get even better as Sophie continues to play, assuming good health. And so what we really need from this team in terms of stretching the floor is a catch and release 3-point shooter, as I've talked about before. That is Sophie, for sure. And the more that she is able to convert, the better the offense is going to be for the Fever. Defensively, she leaves some to be desired, although she is improving in that category. We need her to continue to work on the defensive end and continue to get better, but she takes risks defensively, which I like. She is very good at stealing the ball. She is very good at clogging the passing lanes, but in terms of going over screens instead of under screens, those are areas in which she still needs to work. So expecting quite a good season from Sophie offensively. Defensively, I think it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress. Opposite story for Lexie Hull. I think that defensively, Lexie is extremely good. Not as good as Raven Johnson, not as good as other defenders in the league like Gabby Williams or what have you, but she is tenacious. She is a bulldog. Basically, she is tireless on defense and she sticks to her man as best as she can, trying to disrupt plays. And so up until we drafted Raven Johnson, she was the best defender on the team for sure. Offensively, she is continuing to work on her catch and release ability. As a wing for Caitlin Clark, that is what she needs to be able to do, as we've discussed. She's continuing to work in that area. It's a work in progress. Basically, Sophie and Lexie are mirror images of each other in my mind. One is very good offensively, needs work defensively, and the opposite for Lexie Hull. Let's talk about Raven Johnson a little bit, coming to the team as a rookie from South Carolina. Absolute revelation in terms of defense. She's already proven in preseason that she has a spot on this team, that she has a spot in the rotation. Not only is she good defensively and extremely disruptive defensively, but she's also demonstrated a high court IQ on both sides of the floor. She's gotten some very good passes in. She's also gotten quite a few steals, and she just is a disruptor. And you really, really need that. She is going to be, in my estimation, assuming that she gets playing time, she may be a dark horse rookie of the year candidate. She may be a dark horse 6th player of the year candidate. It all depends on the ratio of playing time that she gets. I think that we're going to be surprised at how much playing time she actually receives. We all know that Sophie and Lexie have the wing slot locked down, but I think Raven is going to see some time at the 3 and at the 2 and at the 1. So combine all of those responsibilities and you have somebody that could see significant playing time. And I think that Raven is proving over and over again that she is a player that is deserving of it. Let's also talk about KK Timpson, rookie from last year. And last year was a pretty big experiment from KK. It was very obvious her physical abilities. She's got a wingspan as long as I've ever seen in my life. She's very good shot blocker, good rim protector, but absolutely lost on offense. Not really a very high basketball IQ and kind of confused and lost, especially when the defenses got more complicated. It seems like this year she's improved in all of those areas. When she played in preseason, it seemed like she's not going to ever be the most intelligent player on the court, but it seems like she has vastly improved in that area. She was scoring in double figures in every preseason game that she played in and looked good. She also was the recipient of several cross-court Caitlin Clark passes and was able to easily convert them at the rim, which is a quality that I said was absolutely necessary for a front court partner of Caitlin Clark's to have. So in terms of her development, it seems to be going very well. And so I can see that she is going to have some significant minutes and be in the rotation in this front court. She's going to be an essential part of this front court, in fact, because after Mo Billings and after Aaliyah Boston, we don't necessarily have what I would call a mid-tier front court player. It's expected that KK will be the player that develops into that mid-tier front court player. And so she is going to be an essential part of the rotation. Let's talk about Ty Harris a little bit. We didn't get to see a lot of Ty Harris in the preseason because she was still recovering from that knee injury that took her out for all of last season. But by all accounts, she is healthy enough to play, but she still is working on getting back to her old self. And her old self in 2024 and in 2023 was good enough to start for the Connecticut Sun, a Connecticut Sun team that made it to back-to-back WNBA semifinals. She is a defensive-oriented player. She is familiar with Stephanie White's system. She is going to fit in very well to what the Indiana Fever are trying to do. I think that the idea initially was that she was going to serve as Caitlin's primary backup, but after the acquisition of Raven Johnson and after Raven Johnson has shown herself to be such a strong player right out of the gate, I think the plan has shifted a little bit, and now she is going to serve as Kelsey Mitchell's primary backup and be able to play the point guard too when needed. But she's going to be a critical part of the rotation. I'm expecting to see very good things from her. And the most important thing, I think, both for Raven and for Ty Harris, is that they have the ability, both of them, to run the offense in a similar way to Caitlin. Last year, we didn't really have a point guard that could do this on the roster initially. When Sid Colson came in last year, the offense didn't look as fast, but Ty Harris and Raven both like to play fast. And so only when we acquired Ari McDonald last year was the offense able to play at a similar pace. But there's not going to be a drop-off in that department with either Ty Harris or with Raven Johnson this year, which is excellent. Now we're getting to kind of end of the bench players. Damiris Dantas is going to be serving as Aaliyah Boston's primary backup. She is 6'5", so she has size. She also has the ability to hit the three ball, so she can stretch the floor in a similar way to Aaliyah Boston. She is not much as a defender, and last year was a very bad year from her from a shooting perspective. However, she did look good in the offseason playing for Brazil and playing over in Europe. She did look good in her second preseason game back against Nigeria, hitting something like 7 3-pointers, but she looked very bad in her first preseason game against Dallas, hitting 0 of 8 3-point shots. And so really Damiris Dantas' value is going to come down to, can she hit her shots or not? And I think that we're going to get an answer to that pretty quickly. If she can hit her shots, she can be a valuable part of the rotation, although defensively she's always going to be a liability. If she's not hitting her shots, then we're going to have to make other arrangements, and we're going to have to lean more on KK Timpson. We're going to have to lean more on Mo Billings sliding in at the 5 when AB needs a rest, etc. Finally, talking about Myisha Hines-Allen. Hines-Allen was brought in as an element of toughness that this team doesn't necessarily have. She was brought in as a rebounder. She is a good rebounder. And as I've said before, she has an extremely high rim percentage conversion rate as a cutting forward, which is going to enable her to be on the receiving end of good Caitlin Clark passes. Am I expecting much out of her other than that? No, I'm not. I'm not expecting her to play very many minutes. I'm not expecting her to make a large impact on the court. But when she is on the court, at least she has some ability to convert Caitlin Clark passes. And then finally, Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. She's going to be the 12th person on the roster. Her skills are, she's a good shooter. She's a decent defender, but she's pretty redundant in terms of her skill set. She doesn't do anything as well as another member of the team does, but she's just a nice general backup to have. She's going to be on the end of the bench in case of an emergency. And so that's going to be our final 12 players on the roster. One other person to talk about, though, is Justine Pissott. She was signed directly to a developmental contract. She is a Fever girl. She is locked in, and she is going to become, in future years, an extremely important piece of the puzzle. Offensively, she's got a sweet 3-ball. She can shoot the lights out of the gym. Defensively, she's got a lot of work to do, and she's also got a lot of work to do in the weight room, but she is going to be traveling with the team. You're going to see her appear in games. She is able to appear in up to 12 games as long as she's on that developmental contract. If it becomes necessary to elevate her to the regular squad, that's also a possibility, but I think that Justine Pissott is going to have a big and key role in the future as she continues to develop, especially defensively. So that's what the Fever team looks like, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good team. Does it have weaknesses? Yes, of course it has weaknesses. There are other teams out there that are bigger. We've already talked about that. There are other teams out there that are going to be more competitive in the rebound department, although Aaliyah Boston and Monique Billings are extremely accomplished rebounders. Sophie and Lexie are good rebounders. Caitlin is one of the best rebounding guards in the WNBA, but still there are going to be other teams that are better in this department. If we have an off shooting night, it's not going to go well for us. But on the whole, in terms of what this team aims to do, I'd say that it is the best possible version of the Indiana Fever. And going forward, I'm expecting an extremely fun year. I'm expecting an extremely competitive year. I really think that in terms of what we want to do, we are going to do that better than any other team and what they want to do. So we're going to see how everything shakes out. Stephanie White has said again and again that everything has to go right in order to win a championship. But last year, pretty much everything went wrong, and we still made it to within an overtime period of the WNBA Finals. So if we have better luck this year, if the pieces come together like we hope that they will and that they should, we are looking at a title contending team. So ladies and gentlemen, that's been the CC Report, just a little bit of a preview of what I'm expecting from the 2026 Indiana Fever. We've got under 72 hours before the journey begins. I am going to be locked in, and I hope that you will be as well. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the game, and we will see you in the next one.